What's up, movie crew? So welcome to a special episode of Let's Rank. The reason this one's a little different than the previous ones is two. If you didn't see the thumbnail image, this is the Let's Rank for the Scream franchise. Special for two reasons. One, out of all of the episodes of Let's Rank I have done, I go through and I make sure that when I'm putting something in a spot, I know that that is where I genuinely believe it to be. This is the first time there will be a tie. Somewhere in this list, there's a tie. So when I start with number 4, I'm aware that I am ranking 5 movies. Just letting everyone know now. At the end of this, I had a lot of requests. Well, when I did my Let's Watch for Scream, I said if anyone would like a spoiler review to comment down below, and pretty much everyone said they wanted the spoiler review. So after I rank number 1 of the Scream franchise, we'll have the spoiler review for the new Scream movie. I'll have timestamps down below for anyone that wants to just go straight to the review. But let's go on ahead and get started with number 4. Number 4 is Scream 4. I do want to say, for the record, I don't hate this movie. But the reason that I don't like this one as much as some of the others, it reminds me a little bit of the later entries in the Friday the 13th franchise, where I'm rooting for Jason instead of the teenagers. I should not be rooting for a killer. And there were quite a few people in this movie where I'm like, get him, Ghostface. Kirby was probably on a very short list of people that when she got attacked, I was like, no, don't attack her. She's awesome. Everyone else, I just didn't care. And with this one, at least from my point of view, it felt like the killer reveal was kind of obvious. Just my opinion. Number 3 is Scream 3. Again, I really like this movie. One of the things that I like with Scream 2 and Scream 3 is the references from the movie Stab. And in this case, I also like that where we usually get 2 killers in the movies, this is the one where when the reveal happened, it was just one. There's a couple of plot holes that I still don't fully understand. So that's one of the reasons it's a little bit lower. But overall, it's still a good movie. At the time, we all thought this was going to be the last one, and it was a good finale to the original trilogy. But at the end of the day, there are a lot of plot holes. And I definitely feel like this movie could have been a little bit shorter and still get its message across. Number 2, and here is the tie. Scream 2 and the new one. I want to say now, the reason I had to tie both of these, the new movie is really good. They found a way to do a good balance with new characters and legacy characters that I feel like they didn't do with 4. And they didn't have the legacy characters overshadow anyone. Now, there's definitely a scene that I'll talk about in the spoiler part of this at the end that may have possibly overshadowed some of the new characters. But overall, the new movie is really good. I had a little bit of an issue with one of the killer reveals. Again, it will be in the spoiler review at the end of this. But the reason I cannot put this above Scream 2 is that All right, when the first movie came out, I was not even 10 years old. So for me, I didn't know about the first movie when it came out. I knew about Scream 2. So I found out about Scream when Scream 2 came out. So even though I obviously saw them in order, Scream 2 is technically still my introduction to the franchise. And for those that do not know, outside of what I do here with Let's Watch a Movie, I am an independent author. And one of these stories that I wrote a few years ago, one of the inspirations was Scream 2 when they introduced the movie Stab. I wrote a story about a movie set where people were getting killed off. And that was one of my influences, was Scream 2. So there's a lot of sentimental values there for Scream 2 for me. But at the same time, for those that don't know, the ending to the movie got leaked at one point and they had to redo the ending. And it's a little obvious when you're watching the movie that they kind of had to change something up with the killer reveal. Had some of that been changed in the movie, I think this movie would be on par with 1. But 2 and 5 are still like pretty much neck and neck with me. I can watch both of them and get the same enjoyment. Number 1 is very obvious, the original. At a time when horror films were very much frowned upon, Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson came together and turned the horror genre upside down with a new movie that was then titled Scary Movie. So instead of you getting the typical slasher, you get a bunch of teenagers that get drunk and get high, have sex, and then get killed, with one exception. You've got people that realize this stuff. So when you're watching and you're like, hey, wait a minute, they shouldn't do this. Next thing you know, that's when Randy shows up. Hey, no one have sex right now. We're in the middle of a horror movie. Like, stuff like that you never got in horror movies prior to this. The only one that I can think of right off the top of my head is Wes Craven's New Nightmare. So not only do you get that, you've got all of these homages and tributes to various horror movies, not just the ones that Wes Craven did. There's so many different ones throughout this entire movie. And it also helped that, you know, the director of The Hills Have Eyes, Nightmare on Elm Street, was the director for this. But at the end of the day, he managed to deliver something that was both very scary and very satirical towards what was going on. And it ended up not only spawning a franchise, but you know how many parody movies there are out there now? You know how many horror movies even do the meta stuff that Scream does? This movie defined an era of horror films. It's hard to put anything else in this franchise above this one. That's not saying that 2 through 5 suck. 2 through 5 all have their own ups and downs. But this movie is a classic. There's so much stuff that they did that still affects the horror genre as a whole to this day. For those that are not sticking around for the spoiler review, if you are new to this channel, hit that subscribe button. You like what you see? Leave a thumbs up. Comment down below your own personal ranking of the Scream franchise. I'm not going to do the tune in next time part because right after this is the spoiler review for the new Scream movie. All right. My full-on spoiler review for the new Scream movie. Alright, if you saw my spoiler-free review, then you know that overall I enjoyed the new movie. So I wanted to talk about some of the things I liked and some of the things I didn't like. And again, I've already said that I liked the movie. If you see the ranking part before this, then you know that I ranked it pretty high. So one of the things I know that's been getting some mixed reviews is Sam being the illegitimate child of Billy Loomis. Honestly, if you remember, Billy's the killer in the first movie. I'm not going to say what he did because I don't want to get like any flags or any warnings on the channel. But let's just say that given what he did to Sidney's mom, the fact that he has a kid does not surprise me. Given how old Sam is supposed to be, to me it makes sense. And for her to have these random flashbacks of her father that she didn't realize was her father, there's still some stuff there that makes sense. Like, I don't want to go too far like into psychology because one, I'm not a psychology person. I know a little bit of stuff on human behavior, but I'm no expert. But at the age when she found out, that's a time when kids are very impressionable, and it does have an effect on them. And as you see in this movie, it had an effect on her. So that part, to me, made sense. One of the things I definitely did enjoy as well were the legacy characters. In this case, we had Dewey, Gale, and Sidney, the originals. Randy's sister, who showed up in Scream 3, is in this one. You find out that the twins in this movie are her children. And we have the deputy from Scream 4 now in this one. And you find out that she is one of the parents to the kids that we are following around. And is a nice little throwback to the man himself, Wes Craven. The kid's name is Wes. Bravo to that. I definitely think that what they did with the legacy characters was good. I'm not sure how I feel about them killing off the deputy and Dewey. I've got to say, Dewey's death was rough. That was probably one of the two most painful deaths for me to watch. One, there's the fact that I've been watching these movies for a long time and seeing a character that I very much enjoy seeing on screen getting killed. It was a bit rough, not gonna lie. The second death that was a little rough was Wes's death. Because it's not so much what they did, it's the fact that the camera stayed on his death. Like when the knife goes through his throat, it stays there for a while. It was not an easy thing to watch. One of the issues that I have with Scream 4 compared to the other ones is, unlike some of the other horror franchises out there, it's always someone that's very human underneath the Ghostface mask. And with 1, 2, and 3, people are usually able to fend themselves off for a little bit before getting killed. And they didn't do that in 4. They did that in the new one. You've got people fighting off Ghostface, like Tara, Jenna Ortega's character, at the beginning of the movie. When Ghostface is coming after her, she is brawling with him. She's punching, she's kicking, she is avoiding him. She is still putting up a fight when she gets stabbed in the gut and has the knife go through her hand. That was also a rough one to watch. And another little Easter egg they did, Sam and Tara's last name is Carpenter, a nice little throwback to one of Wes Craven's friends and fellow horror director John Carpenter. And at the time of me recording this, I think I'm recording this a day or two after his birthday, so happy belated birthday, John Carpenter. The characters that they have us follow around are all very likable. Like, you genuinely are upset when these people are getting attacked and getting killed. There's one or two characters where you don't get enough time with them, but for the most part, you actually feel for these people. And I think this is the most attachment I've had to some of the characters since the first one, really. So that's pretty much everything I liked. The things I did not like, and this is one of my biggest issues with the Scream franchise as a whole, it's usually kind of obvious who the killer is in the movies. I think Scream 3 was really the only one that shocked me because we only had one killer instead of two. But normally I can kind of tell who the killer is. This case, it was really obvious. The killers being Amber and Richie. When Sam is telling Richie, my sister was attacked, I've got to go to Woodsboro. Okay, sure, whatever, let's go. Like, he was a little too ready to go, a little too into this. It was a little obvious. And also, when he's making some of his facial expressions, it reminds me of Matthew Lillard playing Stu. That part's not negative. It was just a random thing that I personally noticed. Amber did not surprise me, but one of my issues with Amber being the killer is that when you see the group together, Amber looks like she's the shortest one in the group. And when she's the one that kills Dewey because Richie is with Sam and Tara. And yet, Ghostface is pretty much eye to eye with Dewey. And that threw me off a little bit. One of the other things, and I'm not saying this is so much a negative because it does look like we are possibly getting a Scream 6. Quite a few survivors in this one. There's only a handful of people that actually died in this movie as far as main characters go. Like, there's a bunch of random people that you just find dead here and there. But for the most part, a lot of the people we see in this movie, if they end up going through with Scream 6, we're going to see them again. And with horror films, you're not supposed to see everyone live into the next movie. Another complaint I have, and I got to go back to the hospital scene. For the record, I'm okay. This was about a year ago at the time of me recording this. Having been to the hospital recently myself, if someone's been attacked, for the record, I was not attacked. That person's going to have around-the-clock watch. Even in a small area like Woodsboro, they're going to have people come in. Be it county cops, state troopers, someone's going to be there to be watching Tara when the deputy went to check on the sheriff. And in this case, not only that, but hospitals are busy. This place was almost dead. That does not happen in a hospital. And it took me out of the movie for a little bit. From the time when Tara's realizing that she's got to run away until Dewey's death, I was kind of taken out of the movie for a little bit. But my overall thoughts, again, I very much enjoyed this movie. It is definitely tied with me for second place with Scream 2. And I'm definitely curious where they're going to take this franchise moving forward. Because they definitely left this open for a Scream 6. But that's going to do it for this one. If you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. You like what you see, leave a thumbs up. Comment down below your thoughts on the new Scream movie. But that's going to do it for this one. Thank you all for watching and tune in next time.